good, YouTube? Welcome back to another video on the Unguardable Podcast, man. Sorry for the late upload. Just been Christmas plans and a lot of things going on, but I'm gonna get right to it. Let's go, man. So we're recapping last week's NFL week. Sorry for the late, like I said, sorry for the late episode, but we're gonna get right to it. So you see at the top score, we got the Bengals beating the Titans, coming out 37-27, and then the Bucks coming over the top over the Chargers 40-17, which was a crazy game. That man. Hey, Baker Mayfield was going nuts in that game. Dallas Cowboys got a dub over the Panthers, man, 30-14. The Atlanta Falcons got a scary win. It was scary because the Las Vegas Raiders had an opportunity to come down and win the game, but they did not. Desmond Ridder sucks. But Atlanta Falcons pulled that win out 15-9. The New York Jets pulled the win over the Jaguars 32-25. The Arizona Cardinals pulled it out 30-17 over the Pats. And moving on to the other side, we got the Chiefs beating the Browns. Broncos handling business over the Indianapolis Colts, but that defense is really good, man. The New Orleans Saints falling short to the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels is a good quarterback, man. He's honestly probably the best rookie quarterback out right now, man. He's easily putting that name up for himself. I can't wait to talk about this next on the next football podcast I'm gonna have out for you guys, because that boy JD5 is insane. Eagles end up pulling out 27-13 versus the Steelers. The Texans pulled it out 20-12 over the Dolphins. Rams ended up beating the San Francisco 49ers on a sloppy, ugly Thursday game, 12-6. And then Baltimore Ravens pulled it out over the Giants, 35-14. Lamar Jackson throwing 5 tutties, bro. He was carving them up. And then the games of the week that I really enjoyed, we got the Minnesota Vikings blowing the bricks off the Chicago Bears 30-12. Sam Darnold, what are you doing, bro? What is you doing? I know what you're doing. You have arguably the number 1 best receiver in the league, along with his sidekick being top 10. And then we have the Buffalo Bills beating the Detroit Lions in a shooter out, man. 48-42, man. Them boys was running up the score. We have some unfortunate news and prayers to David Montgomery. They said that he's out indefinitely, but they did come back with some news saying that he potentially could come back towards the end of the year for the postseason for the Lions, not necessarily for the fantasy year, but people that play fantasy football. So he's not necessarily going to be there for you for the championship, but for the real life playoffs for the Lions, they have an opportunity to potentially get him back because they said that he won't need surgery. So that's good for him. So quick, speedy recovery for him, because honestly, the Detroit Lions look like the team to go through the NFC right now. The team to go through the NFC. You know, obviously you got the Eagles not looking too shabby. But this is the previous week. But as y'all know, that's the day I'm uploading this. Jalen Hurts is hurt, so we'll see how they do. As far as the Eagles wise. But Michael Penix Jr., he just got this start this past weekend. Not this week versus the Las Vegas Raiders, but this past weekend he just got his start, and they announced that he is starting. And I'm glad he is starting, because you see that man Kirk Cousins over there. He has been horrible for them. I had Bijan Robinson on my fantasy football team, pretty much all my football teams. So I like that he's finally being able to be unlocked with the quarterback that will be able to check it down to him, pass it to him. Look for him. You know, I feel like Kirk Cousins never looked for Bijan on the receiving end, you know, because he's such a good receiving back. You know, he is a good runner, but he's also good catching the ball and making a play happen, you know, turning nothing into something. That's what Bijan literally does. But as you see, the statistics stat for Kirk Cousins and why he got benched is because through his first 9 games, his touchdown to interception ratio was 17-7. Beautiful, nice, throwing the touchdowns. Yeah, you have a few picks there, and that can be accepted, but your touchdown ratio is just outweighing the interceptions. But guess what you've done in the last 5 games? You've had a 1-9 touchdown to interception ratio, and it's been horrible, and it's costing you games, it's costing you the division, and you could potentially not be in the playoffs because of that, you know. And yes, we understand you were balling out in the first few games, but now we're in the middle of the year where we need you the most, and you're not being the starting quarterback that you relied to be, and so that's why you got benched. So unfortunate for the Kirk Cousins for him, but shout out to Michael Penix. You know, I'm always advocate for the rookie quarterbacks getting out there, the young bucks to get out there. Yes, I understand it's good to sit and learn, and you know, a lot of great quarterbacks done that, sit and learn and practice, and then have developed. Which yes, I agree. It is probably good for a majority of quarterbacks coming out of college, like 100%. There's no doubt about it. But I also am on the fact that you need to also be in the game to experience it. You know, like yes, practice and all that can do you so much, but like I'm an athlete myself. Like if you're not on the court, like you only can do so much in practice and against your teammates. Unless you're playing in the real game situation and playing, then you won't ever know how that feels. You know, like it's all that practice and repetition against your team is good, but against the other team that's looking to take your head on, like your practice teammates, yeah, they're looking to, you know, touch you up and run through the plays and things like that, but they're not looking to kill you like the opposition. The opposition is looking to kill you and run through your head to try to win the game, you know. And so being on the field and getting that, you know, that adrenaline and getting that feel, I feel like that is authentic, and that every rookie should be able to develop that, because you know, if you don't play for 2 or 3 seasons, however long, you know, you're a rookie and you're sitting and waiting for whoever the starting quarterback is, you know, it's like, shoot, that dude's he's not gonna be ready when it's time to be. Yeah, he's gonna get practice against everybody in OTAs and preseason and blowout games, but that's not beneficial for when you need him in clutch games or throughout a year, you know, like just a setup. But MPJ, good to see you starting. Good to see you cooking up. Moving on to fantasy football, we had a fantasy outbreak with these people, man. Unfortunately, this past week, I am playing in the first round of my 12-man league, and as you see above me, unfortunately, I did lose to Christian in the league with Cam and his friends. So the difference between this league above me and then you see on the right hand side with the 2 screenshots, that's my 12-man league. So the difference is that we're in a league where it's a eight man bracket pretty much, and then for my 12-man league it's only a 4-man bracket. And so this week there's 2 rounds. I mean, there's 1 round, but there's 2 weeks in a round. So as you see in the screenshot, I'm 0.36 ahead of my guy in the 12-man league, because I have 100. You see the total 124.36, and then the other total is 124.1. So I'm like 0.36 points ahead of him, 0.26 points ahead of him as far as that, because there's, like I said, there's 2 weeks in 1 round. But in the league with Cam and his friends, we have more than 4 people in the playoffs. We have 6 people in the playoffs. So we go by each round. We're going by round. What's up? We're going by the rounds. So unfortunately, I lost to Christian because due to these trash cans right here on the other side of me, Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers wanted to go off, and as well as Amon-Ra St. Brown, who Christian ended up having. I did have some players that went off, but I had them on the bench. But it was just a tough one. He had Davante Adams go crazy with 42.8 fantasy points, and Amon-Ra went off with 37.3. Aaron Rodgers for 30 fantasy points. He didn't have Aaron Rodgers, but Davante was the recipient of that. But he did have this other dude, which was Josh Allen, who had 41.28. So you had pretty much almost 3 people drop 40 fantasy points. Josh Allen, Amon-Ra, and Davante Adams. There's no way that I'm going to be able to beat that. But I did, like I said, I did have some people that on the bench that did have some good points that if I probably did have them in, I probably would have made it a competition. But I don't know. I probably would not beat him. But you see, I had Jaden Daniels versus Josh Allen, and then you can read the rest of the list. But we did have some fantasy duds that could have gave us a bigger lead. against in our 12-man league, our money man league. You see Cooper Cup had a dud. Saquon had a dud that this last week. Derrick Henry had a dud. Same with Jawan Jennings, who's my wide receiver too, with only 5 fantasy points. And you see he had Jamar Chase, Lamar Jackson go off with the 5 tutties, 36 fantasy points. Jamar Chase with a nice little solid 18 fantasy. Puka always doing his job. AJ Brown had him a good day for me. But next week is going to be a depressing week to talk about fantasy, and we'll get to that. Moving on, last but not least, we have some crazy statistical things I wanted to just go over. Want to give a big shout out to the JUCO boys out there, everybody, all that's playing JUCO athletes, man. I hope you guys been paying attention, because we just found out that they had a ruling that players that play JUCO sports retain their college eligibility for 4 more years going into it. And some people saying that they don't like that. I've been seeing some people comments and things that said they don't really necessarily like that. Some people said they do, because you want to be able to go to JUCO and still, play your 4 years and, be eligible. But some people are saying they don't enjoy that, because, those people are older coming into school. So, you go do your 2 years at JUCO, or if it is 4 years, I think it's 2 years majority of the time at JUCO. But if you stay you can stay 4 years. But majority of the time it's 2 years at JUCO, and then you move on and then go to a 4-year college. And so by the time you get there, you go to the 4-year, you're like, what, 22, around there, possibly, because getting out of high school 18, 19, and then 20, so yeah, around 22, maybe 23 at the oldest. And then you still have 4 more years of college, and so you got 23, 24. So by the time you're a senior, you could possibly be almost 27 years old, around there, possibly, roughly 26, 27, depending on when your birthday is, so you're almost damn near 30 years old playing against, depending on what level of competition you are, D1, D2, D3, it just depends. Everything just depends on, it's different circumstances. But a lot of people's point is that these old ass people that's playing in college could potentially be playing against young competition, because if you're playing against people at Duke and Kentucky and these big name schools, they 9 times out of 10 have sometimes they have younger players that are 19, 20, that are fresh out of high school, that didn't go to JUCO, that they got offers, they're good, and they're not saying they can't play against the 24-year-old, the 25-year-old, the one that did go to JUCO, but they're just older, more naturally. As you're older, you get more strength. You get, as you get older, you get more strength. You're just a lot more circumstances for being older and things like that. You've been playing longer a little bit, they went to JUCO level versus you from going from high school straight to school. But, that could still be an advantage, going from high school to straight to a 4-year versus going to JUCO, depending on which JUCO you went to. But some people say they don't like it. I think it's pretty dope, because if I was still playing sports and I will go to JUCO, and I will want to retain my eligibility and be able to get my degree and be able to go back to school, and then be able to get my bachelor's and stuff like that. So that's pretty dope, and be able to still play sports. So that's pretty dope. Another thing we got to give a shout out to is Lamar Jackson, man. Y'all let me know, who's y'all MVP? Lamar, Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley. So a lot of people, different choices that you can have, and a lot of in my opinion, this man has just been doing things that they haven't been necessarily winning games all the time, but what he's doing is unthinkable and unreal. And this stat right here I saw with Lamar Jackson having 5 career games with 5 passing touchdowns on 5 or fewer incompletions. So holy moly, that 5. But that's insane. So he's had 5 games with 5 passing touchdowns with 5 or less incompletions. So meaning he has 5 incompleted passes, y'all. Less than 5. That's actually insane. Like, just think about that, man. With 5 tutties. And guess what else? Nobody else has more than 3 games in NFL history. Since NFL has been created. I don't even know when the... Hey Siri, when was the NFL created?
National Football League was formed in 1920.
1920. Nobody since 1920 has had 5 games with 5 touchdowns and 5 or less incompleted passes. Let's talk about it, man. Talk about that's not an MVP caliber player. All right. He can't catch the ball for his teammates, y'all, because, you know, he had some picks this year that were pretty much, a lot of them were on his receivers because it was on target and they bobbled the ball, and you feel me? But we don't want to talk about that. You know, we just want to talk about his team not winning and things like that. But Nikola Jokic gets MVPs when he's the 6th seed and shit, y'all. Woo, we don't want to talk about that. We don't talk about it. All right. So, anyways, another crazy stat that I saw, Jordan Love. Like, I love you, man. You're my fantasy quarterback. I probably should have started you over Michael Penix this past week, but I'm scared of the snow, and I'm pretty sure you're just gonna let them run all fucking day. And I took that long shot, so I eat that myself. But anyways, this dude is weird because for some reason during Toyota Dawn, when Toyota does their sales and trying to sell you guys them cars, this dude just balls out. You see, previous to Toyota Dawn throughout the years, he hasn't done much. He's only passed for 3,000 yards, only had 26 touchdowns, and it's only, I mean, my fault. I'm reading the opposite stats. He's thrown for 3,000 thrown for 3,000 yards, 3,800 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 25 interceptions. So as you see, he's throwing touchdowns and he's throwing a lot of yards, but he's throwing a lot of picks. That's the biggest problem, is when he's not playing during Toyota-thon. Yeah, he's throwing up touchdown. He's throwing the tutties. He's throwing up the yardages, but he's being risky with throwing the ball. He's just throwing the ball and being reckless. But when it's during Toyota-thon, he's the total opposite. Like I was reading the first stats, he's thrown for less yardage, 3,026, 3,283 yards. So yes, I get it. It's less yardage, 26 tutties. Yes, it's less touchdowns. But guess what? 2 interceptions. He's not turning the ball over, so that's really good. They're holding the ball. They're keeping possessions. He's being smart. So I don't know what's going on. Does the bro want a Toyota sponsorship or what? And I think they want a Toyota sponsorship. Whoever BR Gridiron that posted this shit, because this was a crazy stat, bruh. Because what is Jordan Love doing specifically during that time? And you know who else is doing something that's insane that nobody talks about? And he's doing this with a backup quarterback too. Shout out Brian Thomas Jr., BTJ, man. 54 receptions for the year, 956 yards, 8 touchdowns. After this past game they just had this week, he eclipsed 1,000 yards. So shout out to BTJ. Like I said, he's doing this with Mac Jones because Trevor Lawrence has out for the year. He's been out for the past 2 games, and he was out earlier this year. So Mac Jones has been in playing throughout the year a little bit and subbing in for Trevor, and now he's in full time because Trevor's done for the year, and BTJ is still producing numbers because he's really good. Unfortunately, when yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, the Raiders, they ended up winning, you guys. So prior to this week's episode, the Raiders ended up winning, and they lost the unanimous number 1 pick, and now the Jaguars, I believe, have the 2nd pick or the 3rd overall pick. And I'm not saying that they're going to pick Shedeur Sanders or anybody like that, but if they do choose to draft their quarterback, because even though they just did pay Trevor Lawrence, if they do decide to draft somebody and maybe possibly trade Trevor, BTJ and a new QB, potential new QB will be interesting. Or if they did draft Travis Hunter, because a lot of people are saying Travis Hunter potentially could be drafted to Jacksonville, and a lot of people saying that they like him as a cornerback more than a receiver. But knowing Jacksonville, they may play him at cornerback and then every few plays play him at receiver. So I think it would be interesting to see how it will be over there, because I mean, I think Trevor's a good quarterback. He just needs to stay healthy, you guys, and but he has good players over there with Ingram, BTJ, and he's gonna be a receiver I'm looking at next year for sure, fantasy wise, because I have him this year. But hey, he's nice, y'all. He's nice. I took a risk on some rookies this year too, y'all. BTJ, Brock Bowers. I took a risk on some receivers. But moving on, somebody that isn't doing too hot is Tyreek Hill, y'all. Last year, this man Tyreek Hill was averaging 112 yards per carry, or yards per game, should I say? Which is actually insane. That man was getting them yardages, getting them touchdowns, doing it all. This year it's ice cold. It's not the same. It's 57.5 yards per game. We just played the Dolphins this past week, and he dropped 2 passes that he should have caught, you guys. I'll be real. We played good defense, but he had 2 passes that he could have had, and they just dropped through his hands. So I don't know what's going on with Tyreek Hill this year, what's happening to him, if that stuff with the police encounterment this early prior to the season, if that fucked him up really with the wrist stuff. I don't know. I don't know if having the child and people making fun of him by having multiple children and things like that, and if that's getting to him, I don't know. But hopefully Tyreek Hill gets better, and we'll see what's up with him. And something else that happened that nobody has ever done before, like we talked about with Lamar Jackson, this man has done it. Because, this man has done something that nobody else in NFL history has done before, which is crazy as fuck to me. Jared Goff, bro. Jared Goff. Did you guys know this man has thrown 5 interceptions and 5 touchdowns in 2 separate games and had 2 separate outcomes that you wouldn't think resulted in the outcome that they would have? So, if you heard that a quarterback threw 5 interceptions, what do you think happens? Majority of the time, you're like, okay, they lost the game, right? Like 5 interceptions, 5 turnovers. That's not good. You had to have lost that game. You've gave the ball to the opposing team way too many times, and they've should have been able to capitalize on those opportunities. But guess what? Jared Goff and the Lions, they won when he threw the ball 5 interceptions to the opposite team. And what do you think if you've heard a quarterback threw 5 touchdowns? You're like, 5 touchdowns? Oh, that man was balling. There's no way he didn't win. Lamar Jackson just threw 5 touchdowns. He won, right? No. The Lions, he could throw 5 touchdowns and still lose because the other one, he threw 6. Like, come on, bruh. He threw 3 and he threw 3 and then ran 3 in himself, and another running back had this one, and like, come on, bruh. Like, that's tough, bro. I've never seen that in my life, but Jared Goff has done it. He's won a game when he's thrown 5 interceptions, and then he's just lost a game to the Buffalo Bills where he's thrown 5 touchdowns. It's insane, and it's absolutely crazy. Last but not least, before we get out of here, I just want to talk about some free agents that could be on the watch that we should be seeing if they go to some new teams this upcoming year. T. Higgins, Budda Baker, Javon Holland, I believe his last name is, Sam Darnold, Trey Smith, Chris Godwin, Khalil Mack, DJ Reed, Amari Cooper, Ronnie Stanley, Stephon Diggs, Garrett Bowles, Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick, Najee Harris, Javarius Ward, Justin Fields, Aaron Jones, and Zach Bond. So that's just a little screenshot that I found with some unrestricted free agents that we could potentially be on the watch and see who could go where, and we'll be seeing where some of these people on this list are interested, especially with T. Higgins. That's an elite receiver. Sam Darnold, he's pretty good. Even though I think his situation around him makes him better than what he seems. Chris Godwin, that's a good receiver. DJ Reed, that's a good corner. Locked down. Amari Cooper, that's a good receiver. Kind of old as far as age-wise, but he's still good. Still get it done. Stephon Diggs, same with him. Injury prone, in my opinion. Hassan Reddick, injury prone, but he's pretty good as far as the D-line. Najee Harris, that's a good running back. Steelers might be moving on for him and Justin Fields that I see on here. Same with Travarius, he's a lockdown corner, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to re-sign him to a new contract. And then Aaron Jones, he's old. I don't know if he's even going to get another contract. He's having a decent year, but he's old. He might have maybe 1 or 2 more seasons with him. But that's all I have. We're going to have this basketball episode out for you guys ASAP, rock.